Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of In Between the Stitches. As always, I'm your host with my co-host Chase Olschwinger,
What's going on?
and I'm your host Brady Wilson. Did I say that part?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm Brady Wilson. If you didn't know who I am, well, it's been an interesting week of sports. As Cowboy fans, we got the to some people dubious, to some people exciting news that Mike McCarthy's back. We had some baseball signings, the Hall of Fame ballots, some NBA stuff, some crazy NBA stuff. But we're going to start with the Dallas Stars. Since we last talked, they're 28. Now they're 28, 13, and 6. Third in the Central, fourth in the West. Hasn't changed. They beat what we affectionately call them the Pink Wings. The Red Wings 5-4 yesterday, and it's a fun game to watch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Wyatt Johnson had some crazy moves. Audra had a big save. It's crazy to think that Johnson's not much older than me, and then you're older than him. Yeah, so what are we doing with our lives, Chase?
Yeah, right.
And then we got home versus the Ducks at 7 o'clock tomorrow. So, I mean, the Stars they're doing better than the Mavs. They're being a lot more consistent, I think, with their success.
Well, yeah, it's been a trend since I think we first started talking about the Stars season. It's been, well, they're here, and they've kind of stayed here, which is good.
Yeah, I'll take it.
There's no complaints. I mean, they're staying consistent, which is good because that's what matters when it comes to playoffs.
Yeah, we don't have to be the number one team. Just get in.
Yeah, get in.
And we have the team that if they get in can. We have the team that if we can get in, you know, we can make some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Definitely. But yeah, I mean, Stars have been. I think the people are talking about the trade deadline, and a lot of people are like, "Why? We don't really need much." I mean, you can try to maybe upgrade in some areas.
I mean, if you can add without getting rid of, players, sure. There's nothing to mess with, really.
Yeah, nothing wrong with hitting maybe a bench piece, but there's just you don't want to mess with it. This kind of feels like a don't mess with the success, in my opinion. But
I agree.
yeah, Stars been playing well. And then speaking of those Mavs, 24-19, so that gap is closing between the wins and the losses. They're now 8th in the West, 2-game losing streak. They lost to Lakers and they lost to Boston. They face the Suns tomorrow night.
Tonight.
Or it is tonight,
Yeah.
yes. I'm sorry. I have
That'd be pretty interesting if the Stars and the Mavericks were playing at home at the same time. That'd be interesting.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun. That would be. I just realized that would be a very unenjoyable experience for some. I don't know. Would it be harder to walk on the ice and play basketball on ice, or would it be harder to skate on hardwood?
You know what? I think I'm going to have to go with skate.
Yeah, me too. But the Mavs have just been eh.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
They've been eh. They've show games where you're like, wow, this team could beat anybody in the league, and then they show games where it's they can't beat anybody in the league. They couldn't beat anybody. So I think it's frustrating as Mavs fans because at least we would like some more consistency from our team. And what have you been seeing?
It's not that I've been seeing, because I've been seeing whatever. I've seen good things. I've seen bad things. It's more like what I'm waiting to see and what every other Mavs fan is waiting to see. Because after these pathetic performances, it's like, why have we not made a move yet? There's guys out there that are looking to be traded, that teams are looking to trade, and the Mavs haven't. I mean, from what we know, haven't tried. I'm sure they're out there, and I'm sure they've offered stuff, but it's been a trend for the Mavs not to pursue things. Outside of Kyrie, outside of Porzingis, where can you really think of a big free agent signing, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I'm still holding out hope that we do something that can benefit the team, because as we've said every week, when you have Luka and Kyrie on your team, as long as they're healthy, you can win versus anybody.
Yeah.
Now it's adding around and putting the pieces around to be successful later down the stretch.
And it's having Lively, I think, is one of the most important parts of this team, having that presence.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the Mavs, again, I'm going to keep preaching it, just need more consistency. And right now they're kind of just, again, eh.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have games where Luka and Kyrie, they go off and the bench players go off and everybody sings Kumbaya and we have a great game. And then there's some games where everyone just kind of falls flat. Or, Luka's still spectacular. I mean, another 30-point triple-double.
But it was a bad game.
Yeah.
He had a bad game. And he still had 33, 18, and 13. Which is, it's crazy. But you watch the game and you're like, wow, he really didn't play that good. And he still had these crazy stats. But I don't know. You said Lively, being on the floor is a huge piece, which is correct. And we don't have, when he's not on the floor, we don't have that guy to look at to be like that true anchor that can score, that can rebound. That we don't have that guy. And there's been talks for the Mavs that they're looking to pursue Washington's Kyle Kuzma and Daniel Gafford. Gafford would be he's a starting center on a lot of teams, but for us, he would be a guy that you bring off the bench that can go out there, score, and really hold down the fort while Lively's on the bench or while he's hurt or whatever, right? And then Kuzma brings that defense, a little bit of defensive presence.
Yeah.
Not really what we're looking for when it comes to defense, but gives you that size on the 3 and the 4, and also can score. It gives you another option. So I would love to see the Mavs pursue both of them. There's been a lot of talks going after everyone. Miles Bridges, I don't know if Cuban wants to get in that mess with with Bridges, but when you look at it just from a basketball perspective, I'd love to have him on our team.
Yeah, I mean, I wish the Mavs could go back into about, 2013, 2014 and clone Andre Drummond and bring him to the present. We need that because we don't really need scoring. That's the one thing is we kind of have scoring. We need defense. We need rebounding. We need those other things besides points that matter a lot. I mean, we went to the UNT versus a Tulane game, and we out-rebounded them how badly?
Yeah, it was like, if I can remember, like 46-19 or something like that.
And we beat them pretty good. So, I mean, rebounding is, anyone who's ever played any kind of organized basketball, whether it was YMCA or they've played NBA, will know you learned rebounding is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And in basketball, it's rebounding. I'd say in baseball, it's errors. In football, it's the turnover battle. In hockey, maybe the turnover battle, maybe power play.
Yeah, just
power play stuff. So
yeah,
basketball's version of that is the whole coach saying, if we get this, we win. It's rebounds.
And it all revolves around defense winning championships.
Yeah, defense.
All those baseball with errors, hockey with power. Not having defensive turnovers or off. Whatever. Right. It all revolves around defense, and it all revolves around protecting the paint, protecting teammate. Stuff like that.
Defense does win championships, and the Mavs have some defense, but need it to get better.
Mm-hmm.
I think. But in the shocking NBA news of the day, and I think it was funny because the previous night, I think the Bucks had won a game, and they were 30-13. And so I remember I fall asleep to SportsCenter every night. I think it's kind of funny that that people fall asleep to their comfort show. I fall asleep to SportsCenter. It's a way to keep up with college basketball and everything. But yeah, but with the Bucks, I remember watching it, going, man, these Bucks are really good. I mean, Lillard is playing at a high level still, and Giannis is Giannis, and they're playing at a really high level right now. And I wake up to the news that their coach is fired, and Adrian Griffin, 30-13 start. I don't know how many times it's happened in NBA history, but my bet would be 0.
Especially after this is his first year on a 4-year deal.
Yeah. So there have been some rumblings about losing the locker room, the old cliche, the little words, he's lost the locker room, they've lost faith. Whatever it is, they kind of made themselves a joke, I think, in a lot of fans' eyes by hiring Doc Rivers, who is a good coach. He's a good coach. But he's kind of like Dusty Baker. He's a good one, really good one. But he just has trouble when the lights get brighter.
And he will get outcoached.
And he will get outcoached, and he will get outmanaged.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's, he's a really good one, but he has yet to prove he can win. This is Dusty Baker before Astros, by the way. He has yet to prove that he can win the big one. And it may not be that the playoffs are just brighter. I don't know if when it comes to athletes, this goes for basketball, football, baseball, hockey, whatever. I'm curious to know, because we as fans and we as something happened?
Oh, it was just, I'll save it for NFL news.
Oh, and when we, as talking heads, and we talk about it, we like to use those. I'm trying to see what happened, but
it was just Vic Fangio and the Dolphins parting ways.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, well, dang it, he runs a 3-4. Anyway, sorry. Back to I'm in my, but I don't know if the playoffs get brighter. We like to say as the talking heads, do the playoffs get brighter? Do these guys, they crumble in the big moments? I don't know if it's crumbling in the big moment. I think it's one of those, it's not so much he can't coach in the big games. It's just we scrutinize him more highly because it's a big game. So but he can't win it.
Mm-hmm.
Notorious for doing bad things in the playoffs. But
people look at him as a great coach because of that Boston Celtics team.
Yeah,
but no, I mean, look at the team he had. I mean, I know I'm with you. I think he's a good coach too.
I think he's a good, solid coach that can win you a lot of. It kind of feels like McCarthy with the Cowboys. He's a good coach that can win you a lot of regular season games, but when you put him in the playoffs, it sputters.
Sure.
But
It's a good comparison.
I'm curious what you think of everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think the firing was a little odd, but I mean, listen, as an organization, as a business, you want nothing but success, right? And if players are unhappy, and you always think about the potential of them leaving or whatever, so you want to give your players the benefit of the doubt and make them happy, make them want to stay and want to win, right? So clearly, the front offices that were noticing, something off, and despite the record, had to do something. And it looks like, not looks like, they did something, and we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how the players react. We'll see how the team goes forward.
The thing is this will be even more eyes and more underneath the scope of things, because if Rivers comes in, because you're gonna have to learn. I don't know how different their systems are and what they run, but you have to kind of learn, I would assume, at least somewhat of a new system of things, unless he's going to come in. And I don't picture Doc Rivers coming in and saying, you guys do what you were doing, because clearly what you were doing, you were winning, but you don't like the other guy.
Right.
So you felt you needed a change. I don't know if that was schematically, clearly I don't think it was, 30-13, but also you have a lot of talent on the roster. Learning a new system, learning a new coach mid-season rarely goes well for anybody. And I think that's what I think if I was a Bucs fan I'd be worried about, is either it's one of two things. Either something was so wrong this early in it's still pretty early in the season. Well, no, we're about almost halfway. Right? Yeah, we're about halfway.
Halfway.
Okay, so about halfway through the year. I still think of it as January. I forget that the basketball season goes till
more than halfway, actually, if you look at it.
The playoffs take 2 months. I forget that.
Yeah.
So I think the playoffs is June.
Yeah.
But anyway, you clearly thought you had to make a change that was so drastic that you could not wait the rest of the year to do it, which is either you are a bad organization that just made a very bad decision, very impulsive decision, which the Bucs have never shown us to be that, or you are making the correct decision and you realized if we're not going to get into the playoffs with what we're doing right now, and we need a more experienced coach. That's possible. That's very possible. But it definitely was very abrupt. It definitely was waking up going, I'm reading that right?
Yeah.
Having to...
Just a surprise. But I will tell you this. The Bucs will not take any BS from Doc Rivers. I'll tell you that. He is going to coach them.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what their missing piece was. I mean, I know they won a championship 3 years ago, 2 years ago. But that's the difference from what I can tell just off of, just looking at them. Adrian Griffin and Doc Rivers, that Doc Rivers isn't going to let them do anything that, he wouldn't do, right? He's not going to let them boss him around. It's Doc Rivers going to be bossing them around. In a coaching way, obviously.
In a way that I think Bochy does, and I'm not comparing Rivers to Bruce Bochy, but I'm just saying that in that he does have a ring. You can't argue with the ring. He does have a lot of coaching experience. He does have a lot of experience taking teams to the playoffs. So he does have some skins on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe they respect that.
Yeah.
I think athletes do respect that. I mean, I remember reading articles about, I think it was Heaney, was talking about when Bruce Bochy walked into spring training and said that this was the championship ball club. You go, sure, yeah, you believe him because he's seen it 3 different times, so.
Yeah, just like how you mentioned last week, moving certain guys that were starters all year to the pen.
Yeah.
Well, you go with it. It works.
You go with it because
him.
you trust. You have to. I think sometimes coaches forget that when you're coaching up somebody, whether it's a kid, whether it's a professional athlete, if you want them to buy in, you do have to make the correct decision more often than not, so that they can see, all right, when this guy says this, it usually is for a good reason, and it usually works out. That is when you get players that are coachable. I knew a lot. I had teammates that were, a lot of people would say they were not very coachable people, maybe. But if maybe I'm not calling the coaches out. I'm just saying that if you get players that you need them to respect coaching. You need them to respect good decision making. And when you don't have that, you may have what the Bucs had. It's possible. So, and then other NBA news, Terry Rozier to the Heat.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty notable. I mean, take it away, Chase.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good deal for both teams. With the Heat, playoff contenders. Who knows how far they always tend to go, far in the playoffs. But good for the Heat. Good for the Hornets. The Heat got their guard. What is this? Oh wow.
We'll talk about it in a second. And it's football stuff again, but
Yeah. No. Anyways, the Heat got their starting point guard, and that's good for them. They needed another playmaker, needed another scorer. They have like 4 really good scorers now, so that's something that it's going to be good in the playoffs. But for the Hornets, of a guy like Terry Rozier coming up on 30 years old, or maybe 30 years old now, on a big expiring contract, getting a first round pick, and for a guy that you're not even going to bring back in the first place, it's a good deal for the Hornets. They're not going anywhere this year. They don't need Rozier's talent, so to get a first round pick, good deal for both teams.
maximize the talent before you have to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Kind of what the Dolphins should have, not the Dolphins, the Panthers should have with Brian Burns, who's going to leave, and they had 2 first-round picks on the table and didn't take them. Anyway, I believe that's it for basketball.
Yeah.
And it is now my time to continue to remind you that the Texas Rangers are World Series champions. And we had some baseball news. We had some baseball stuff happen. The Hall of Fame was the thing that happened yesterday, and I was very excited to hear that 3 new men were elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
All guys that I wanted to.
And yes, they were definitely all guys that I wanted to. And that would be Adrian Beltre, former Ranger. Beltre obviously is a Hall of Famer. There is no way he's not. The fact that if you saw my story, you saw that there are 19 people that did not vote for him. I don't understand how you don't vote for Adrian Beltre.
But we don't look at that anymore because guess what? He's in.
I know that, but it bugs me because there were legit people who have legitimate votes that said, nah, I'm not going to vote for Beltre. No, I'm not going to do that. And I think that's what bugs me, is that there are people who looked at Adrian Beltre and said, no, I'm not a Hall of Famer. But yet they were probably the same people that said Derek Jeter was a Hall of Famer. Beltre was better than Jeter. And then you had Todd Helton, career Rocky. Great. Hall of Fame loves the career guys. It was one of the biggest knocks on McGriff, and it was one of the biggest knocks on Sheffield. And I hate this knock. Well, they played for a lot of teams. So, that means that, I can point to Sheffield was dumped in most cases. It's not like he's playing with McGriff. He was being traded, I think, most of the time.
Well, what's the definition of a lot of teams? 5?
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing is McGriff played for, Blue Jays, Rays, Braves, I think Padres. And then there was maybe one more in there. So you played for multiple teams. So I think it's one of those, the Hall of Fame likes to be able to say, they like to associate the people with a team.
Yeah.
Right? It's why there are very few guys with no hats.
What do you associate Beltre with?
Rangers.
Of course. Right? But he played for multiple teams.
He played for multiple teams, but I mean the jumping around. Like you played 2 years here, 4 years here, 3 years here, 4 years here. Beltre went, first part, his career's in sections. It's in 4 different sections. Dodgers section, the Mariners, the little clip in Boston, and then Rangers. But it was, I don't like the knock, but clearly, 2 guys were voted in that never played for any other team besides when they were, I guess, either drafted to or the one they broke in with.
Yeah.
Helton deserved it. I have said now for a while now that if you're going to use Coors Field to knock Helton, let's use Yankee Stadium to knock left-handed hitters. If we're going to use ballparks, you can't use Coors Field and then refuse to use other ballparks. Let's give a boost to the hitters that played in the Polo Grounds. How many home runs they get taken away by that center field? And then how many home runs they get added by the short right center field, by the short right fields and left field. So that's the part, is that if you're going, you can't, in my opinion, using a ballpark to penalize a player is very stupid when it comes to the Hall of Fame, especially when his road splits, I believe in some cases, were better than his home splits. So you don't even have the argument that Coors Field benefited him. So what? Even if it did, so what? He had the numbers. How many other guys have played in Coors Field? They didn't have those numbers. So clearly he was doing something right. Anyway, Joe Mauer got in. First year, he deserved it. It was funny that a lot of people, when he retired, said, well, he's the Hall of Very Good. A lot of people said that. A lot of people said he's not a Hall of Famer. And I think as time has gone on, and this is why we don't, it's one of the best parts about the Baseball Hall of Fame. I think this goes for other Hall of Fames too. There's a waiting period. It gives you time to forget their accomplishments and then revisit them with eyes that did not just watch him retire, right? Whether it's, sometimes when guys retire, it's well, he's a definite Hall of Famer. But then you look at his numbers 5 years later, and you're like, not really. And there's guys like Mauer where you say, I don't think so. And then you look at his numbers 5 years later and go, yeah, he actually is. I mean, the one knock on Mauer was the fact that he played so many games at first base. I can't remember who it was. It was I think an 1880s catcher. Is the only catcher in the Hall of Fame with I think less games than Mauer at catcher. And that was because it was the 1800s baseball. Yeah, as Bob Costa said during the announcement, he got to the game on horse and buggy, so he was probably late to a lot of games. That's, I don't like that knock on Mauer. It is somewhat valid because if you're going to argue that he's one of the best hitting catchers, which he is, he's one of the better ones, but he didn't play catcher for a large portion of his career, it's tough to make that narrative. But still, 3 batting titles as a catcher. I believe they said he's had 7 batting titles. There's been 7 batting titles won amongst all catchers in history of baseball. He has 3. That's all. That's not American League National. He has 3 of the 7 batting titles won by all the catchers in Major League history. So I mean, that's
impressive.
He was a good dude. He fits all the criteria. He's a good guy. He's got integrity. He's got good character. I hate those clauses, by the way. Just if you can't tell by a sarcastic tone, but he's a good guy that really, really deserved it. And he had a lot of other qualities. I think that leadership. His hitting instructions, those videos. His dad, I believe, invented some kind of device that helped his swing, and then they started showing other kids, here's how you do this. And he had one of the most beautiful swings ever. And I learned a fun little factoid, and I'm not gonna impart to everyone listening. And that's Max Scherzer. So everyone knows he has a cutter. Apparently, he learned that cutter because he was playing for the Tigers. Now he's playing for the Twins, so he was seeing him a lot during the year.
Mm-hmm.
He developed the cutter to get Joe Mauer out because Mauer was so good at bringing his hands in, he did something that just rode in on him. And he still does that cutter today. I think it's funny that he developed he developed a whole pitch just to get one guy out.
Yeah.
And he still uses it. I thought that was really interesting. Other notable votes, Billy Wagner fell
so close.
5 votes short. And 73.8%. And what sucks is we were saying this was his year. I really thought this was his year. The fact that he's not in is a travesty.
It's just hard. Dude's a top 10 reliever of all time.
I use the greatest lefty of all time, greatest left-handed reliever.
Yeah.
There's no, I can't think of anyone even remotely close. I think maybe
left-handed.
Hader will probably be second of all time when he retires,
Yeah.
and that's
Chapman.
Chapman is up there. There's probably someone really glaring I'm missing, but think of all the great relievers. Think of Roy Fingers. You think of even Al Roy Face in the 50s was a right-handed pitcher.
No.
Lee Smith, Bruce Sutter, Dennis Eckersley, Goose Gossage. You got Trevor Hoffman, Rivera. Yeah, sorry, I was going through list mode, but the fact that he's not in it, it's really bad, and it's a bad on everybody.
But he'll get in.
He will get in. Sheffield, 63.9%. Veterans Committee, first year he's in.
Mm-hmm.
I do not see them not voting him in. I could almost see him being unanimous. And I said this to you when we were talking about this beforehand. If he was a DH his entire career, he'd have been a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have been up there with Ortiz and Edgar. The problem was he sucked so bad in the field, and he did not have the DH to play in most of his career. He played with the Yankees and the Braves late in his career, and he played with the Brewers in the first portion of his career when they were still in the American League. So I think he DH'd in what we saw, 300-something games, 309 games he was a DH in, out of how many he played in. So not even, 2 years worth of games of DHing. So I don't hold the field as much against him. He was a very bad fielder, but he was such a feared bat that I think
should put him in.
He played for so long. Clearly, he was a good enough hitter for that long to stay in the league. I think the opposite kind of true for Andrew Jones. His bat fell off hard, but he was still such a great, terrific center fielder that he had jobs for a long time. And I think Jones is going to be, I think he's 2 years away. Looking at 61.6%, he's a little bit away.
Yeah.
Beltran's trending upward because he's kind of still paying his penance for the Astro scandal. A-Rod, I think, went down 5%. A-Rod is it sucks, but he's not going to get in. He's going to be on for 10 years. Manny, I think kind of the same thing. He's 32.5%. Take that, Bill Bio.
I was gonna say, yeah, but Manny gets in over Beltre.
Yeah, Chase Utley's I think he's gonna hit a big boom. I think he's gonna be the darling because next year, I looked at the candidates. There's really only 3 names that I think are worthy of my vote if I'd have a vote. Ichiro's next year, slam dunk,
Unanimous.
slam dunk. The guy, he's the world leader in hits. World leader. If you're counting Japan, he's the world leader in hits. One of the most terrific players to ever play the game of baseball. He's in. Okay. Then there's CC Sabathia. I say yes. And same thing with Felix Hernandez. I say yes. And the reason I say yes to both those guys, and someone was making the comparison.
Is it Kinsler up for?
Kinsler's up next year. And I know I have said this, so I'm not being a hypocrite here when I say this. I do allow for if you want to make a biased vote, I think it's okay. I would put him on my ballot because he was my all-time favorite player growing up. He will be on my ballot until he drops off. I love Ian Kinsler. I will vote for him. Is he a Hall of Famer? No. He is the quintessence. I think he is the poster child for Hall of very good, should be remembered, but not in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same goes for Pedroia. He had injury problems. Utley is a little bit different. They're all they're both all 3 second basemen, so they're going to make the comparisons. That's for a different time. CC is to me a Hall of Famer, and I think the same thing with obviously I think Andy Pettit's a Hall of Famer, and someone made the case to me and said, well, why is it Mark Burley? And Burley has an interesting stat. His first year in the league, he won like a couple games. After that, after his first year, from year 2 to the day he retired, he never had a season where he did not have a double-digit win total. I mean, that's pretty good.
That's good.
And he played for some pretty bad White Sox teams. So, I mean, he clearly had some talent. And I think this is where the problem with statistics comes in. The stats will tell you that Burley's up there with Pettit, Burley's up there with CC, and Burley's up there with Felix. But the perception of those 4 players is very different.
Mm-hmm.
Pettit has Hall of Fame rings still on the table and a great postseason record. CC has a lot of awards. He has some hardware and a really great prime. And I think it's kind of very similar to Felix. And Felix, people are going to fault him for his win total. It's like 169 wins. He played for the Mariners his entire career.
Yeah.
Are we going to fault him for that? I mean, wins don't mean... I hate that wins mean a lot to Hall of Fame voters. It shouldn't. Felix was a Hall of Fame level pitcher for an extended period of time. Burley, to me, never was. I've talked to multiple people that were fans of the game of baseball at that time. None of them have said, yeah, Burley's a Hall of Famer. Yeah, well, I mean, he was... If you want to vote for him, sure, I see the appeal more and more when I looked at the numbers. But to me, I would say that Pettit, Sabathia, and Felix are over him if we're going to look at starters on the ballot. So I think CC should be in... to me, he should be almost slam dunk, and I truly believe that. Felix, I mean, kind of was part of defining a generation. I mean, baseball had the steroid generation, which lasted into the early 2000s. Felix was the prime. His prime was in that weird spot where the new generation of starters, Scherzer and Kershaw and DeGrom and those guys, his kind of prime was a little bit before that. He kind of kicked everything off of the new era. And he had a really bad drop-off. He did. But he played for the Mariners. I don't blame the guy. I think he's a Hall of Famer. But that's just me. It could partly be I saw him play.
Yeah.
We're now getting into guys that me and you saw play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the list here, and, you mentioned a lot of guys, but Curtis Granderson?
No.
Russell Martin?
Great player, no.
No.
There's
Hanley?
Yeah, there's a lot of really fun players on next year's ballot, but what the overall point of the next year's ballot is there's maybe 3 new Hall of Famers on that ballot. 3, that's it.
Yeah.
That means that these holdovers, and Sheffield's going to be off. So that means that guys like Andrew Jones and Billy Wagner should have no problem getting in next year, in my opinion. But I think Jones may have to wait another year. But anyway, more in baseball. Aroldis Chapman signed with the Pirates. Thank you, Aroldis. Won us a World Series. We salute you for your service, and I still say that maybe we'll trade for you at the deadline again. And
It's concerning me though. It is concerning me. We're losing guys, but we're not adding anyone.
we're adding Wyatt Langford potentially and potentially Justin Foscue.
I'm looking at the pitching side of the team.
Leiter, Rocker. Well, okay, Rocker's a lot. Porter. I mean, we got guys coming up to the pipeline just in the next few years, not right now.
Hector Neris, gotta make it happen.
I love Chapman.
But Pirates, we can welcome him to the Chapman experience.
Chapman was a guy that I always loved watching growing up. Just being enamored with the way he threw, how hard he threw as a kid. Having him on my team was a lot of fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. And scary.
And scary, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of Tums were consumed when Chapman was coming into the game, but it's okay. And for anyone still worried about Cole Reagans, number one, we won the World Series. I don't give a crap. Number two, we were not using Reagans the way he should have been used. We were not using his slider. We were using his cutter because Mike Maddox just has a thing for cutters, clearly. Most everyone on our staff throws one. And he didn't really want him to the slider anymore. He goes to Kansas City. They have him throw the slider, less of the cutter, and he unlocks into a new pitcher. We were not going to do that. He was not going to fit in here. Get over it. And then Josh Hader to the Astros. I got into a really fun debate with a guy on Twitter. The guy actually's blocked me now, so I need to add him to the list of guys that have, with Noah Syndergaard, of guys that have blocked me. He was an Astros fan. And you know me, I take almost everything as a debate. I'm gonna give my argument, you give your argument, I rebut. We'd go back and forth. I forget that other people on Twitter don't think this way. They just think of it as a flame war almost, right? Well, this guy, I assume guy, on Twitter, someone posted the three Astros guys, Abreu, Presley, and Hader, which I will admit, pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a ton of the 1990 Reds. With Rob Dibble, Norm Charlton, and Randy Myers, the Nasty Boys. Game was over in the sixth. Game was over in the set once you got to the seventh. Very similar to that. Game's over once you get to the seventh, potentially. I mean, those are three tough relievers.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, Adolis owns Abreu. And they won't have Abreu for the first two games. Mwahaha. I hope they lose the division by one game, and they lose both of those games, and it's so Abreu, his suspension played a part.
Right.
I just want to be able to say it. I mean, it's scary, but I posted a GIF of Adolis doing the hand to his ear just because I'm not usually a troll, but it's a little fun to troll sometimes. Occasionally, I have to troll. And this guy decided to call us little brother, shout some obscenities. I objected to the little brother comment and basically just sent a calm, I'm calm. I just said, hey, we're not the little brother. You guys were a horrible franchise, just like us. Up until 2017, till you reversed it. There's a clear flaw with my argument. You can just say, well, yeah, but since 2017, we've been one of the best teams. We've been probably the best team in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
What you got to say to that? Well, I got nothing to say, but he didn't say that. And he kept leveling personal insults. He never really gave an argument. Then he tried to say 2011, we choked in 10 and 11, and I said we didn't choke in 10. We lost 4-1. That's not really a choke. That's just a loss. We did choke in 11, and you forgot. I said, and you forgot we choked in 15. Then I proceeded to list the amount of times the Astros have choked. 1980 NLCS, 1986 NLCS, where they were up 3-0 going into the top of the ninth with Mike Scott going in Game 7 and blew it in 16 innings. Obviously, 2019. So I pointed out a few examples, and the guy, his response was, well, it's a good thing I wasn't alive for those other ones, so they don't matter. I went, what do you mean? No, that's not how this works. Just because you weren't alive doesn't mean it doesn't matter to the argument. And then, so basically, he blocked me because I kept spitting facts.
Because you were right.
Because I was right.
Yeah.
I kept spitting facts. None of us were little brother until 2017. We kicked your butt the first few years of the rivalry, then you've kicked our butt. Now we're heading into the third chapter where we're both good and we're going to see who wins.
Yeah.
Anyway, just want to tell that story. Now to football. Anything else to add with baseball,
No,
Chase?
I'm just happy I'm happy Beltre.
Me too. As someone watching him growing up was a joy.
Yeah.
True joy. Cowboys, keep my ranch short. McCarthy's back. On one hand, I am happy because it means that you're not worried about a new coach. You're not worried about potentially you're not dealing with someone new. On the other hand, I don't trust McCarthy to modernize. His offense is outdated. It is. He tried to throw in some modern stuff, but he completely abandoned it against the Packers and went back to his old style, kind of West Coast, Texas Coast, whatever you want to call it, offense. And defenses have figured that out. They figured it out years ago. and it's not working.
Yeah.
Do something different. The game. I don't trust this coaching staff anymore. I lost complete faith in them to game plan for anything. They got away from everything that made them successful the first part in the regular season. It is status quo, and status quo means, hey, we'll be competitive. At least we're competitive next year. It's the only silver lining I think Cowboys fans have had over the past 15 years.
I don't know if you've taken a look at our schedule for next year.
I haven't, but
it's a tough schedule.
yeah, this year's a tough schedule. Every year's a tough schedule. It's the NFL. There's a lot, the gaps.
No,
closed.
this year was not a tough schedule.
I mean, the AFC East. You had the Dolphins. You had the Bills.
Yeah, but I mean,
Jets defense. That's
it wasn't.
What was the NFC team? What was the NFC division we faced? Oh, was it the? No, we didn't. We didn't face the North.
The West.
We faced the West.
Rams, Seahawks,
I mean,
Cardinals,
yeah, the West was a good division. So every year is a tough year with this.
I think next year is.
I think it's the
AFC North.
East. Yeah, AFC
No,
North.
it's North. Yeah,
North.
Which is tough. All four of those teams are tough.
When healthy, yeah. Lamar scares me. Other than that, Steelers don't scare me right now.
We got the Texans as well.
Texans, oh yippee, we can play them. Yeah, so it's a tough schedule.
It's a tough schedule.
We'll see. I trust McCarthy to win the regular season, but we'll see if the Cowboys. There are some rumblings that they're gonna change. That game basically broke them, and they're gonna try to change. But how many times have we heard they're gonna change their philosophy this year?
Yeah,
and then just fall flat. So I'll believe it when I see it. I'm kind of looking at this as I'm not worried about the Cowboys right now. I'm doing my draft stuff. I watched Caleb Williams last night. I will do more draft stuff once the season's over, and we'll start diving into players a little bit more. But I can't worry about it, because if I worry about it, it's gonna be all I think about, legitimately, about just what are we gonna do, how are we gonna do it? Like, you think I'm working for them. For McCarthy, I just don't trust him. I don't do not trust him. I don't trust Dan Quinn. The modern offenses have figured out Dan Quinn's defense, because he's still running the Legion of Boom defense, and they've figured it out. It's yeah. So if we run it back with the same guys, I'm expecting the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
good way to put it. Yeah.
That's basically it, and we'll see. And I think that most people are directing their attention to Jerry. And I think Brian Broaddus of 105.3 The Fan had a great rant the other day. This was yesterday about. I think the fan, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, that I don't think this is Jerry anymore. I think Jerry does a lot of he gets the credit because he's the one talking. I think this is Steven's team. Jerry's like, he's 81, 80. Jerry's not running day to day anymore. He's not. There's no way he's not. Because Jerry used to do some wild, bat crap. I wanted to say a different word, but I can't. He wanted to do some crazy things. And you're not seeing that anymore. You're seeing a lot more conservative, and that strikes me as Stephen Jones. So I don't trust Stephen Jones, but we'll see. We'll see. We have draft picks. We may have some cap space. I do want to extend Dak. One question, and I want everyone that's listening to this, wherever you're listening to it, whether it's Spotify, DM me on wherever you want, comment on YouTube. If you don't want Dak, who? That's my question. If you don't want Dak, it's the question of the day. Kids, if you don't want Dak, who? And no, Trey Lance is not the answer. No, if not Dak, who? Because you're not going to be able to get Caleb Williams.
There's no one better.
You're not going to get Williams. Oh God, no. You're not going to get Jan Daniels. You're not going to get, well, let's get McCarthy. No. Well, let's get Penix. No. You're not getting a rookie. So name me one veteran quarterback that we can get that would be better than Dak Prescott.
There's debate for Kirk Cousins.
No, he's not better than.
He's not better than Dak. Yeah,
you can win with Dak. I truly believe that. I know people are going to say, Brady, you're an idiot. And I think it was RJ Choppy was trying to say that well, Dak, he's had so many offensive coaches and he sucks. So clearly it's the offensive coaches, and so clearly it's starting on Dak. It's kind of like if all your exes are crazy, I think you're the crazy one.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's wrong. Look at the quality of his offensive coaches. Name me one quality offensive coach he's had. Linehan? No. Garrett? No. Kellen Moore? Maybe. Probably not. McCarthy? No. If you want to put in Brighton Schottenheimer? It's still a no. He hasn't had one. Zero. None. Imagine what he could do with Kyle Shanahan. You'd be MVP. I believe that. If you gave him someone from that tree that could do those things. So, I believe Dak's the guy. I think the team believes Dak's the guy. Extend him. Get the cap down. The one thing I do trust Jerry and the boys to do is maneuver the cap. They're great at it. They're amazing at maneuvering the cap space. They've always been. So I trust they'll figure everything out.
I just want to put the right pieces around Dak.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not putting on all this blame on Dak at all. I think he's a fantastic quarterback. I want him to stay.
Right.
I want to extend him, but in his defense, he doesn't have a run game. He doesn't have a receiving game. He's one. He has one receiver.
No,
I mean,
well, he has Cooks.
No, listen, no, I didn't Cook. I know, but listen, Cooks was he disappeared a lot.
I don't think that was Cooks. That was McCarthy.
Whatever it is, right? You got to put the right pieces around your quarterback for him to be successful.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have to do that. And if there's no threatening run game, Pollard's a fine running back. He is. Is he scaring defenses? No.
Not really.
You put a guy like Derrick Henry this offseason behind Dak Prescott. Now that's getting defenses on their toes saying, okay, well, if you hand the ball off, we got to be scared for a 90-yard touchdown. Or you watch out for Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb, but you got to still, take in the fact that Derrick Henry's in the backfield. You got to put the right pieces around him. And that's something that I think Jerry Jones is not understanding.
Yeah.
He thinks that we can win with what we have. Well, that's not the answer. You have to give Dak the pieces to be successful.
And I agree with that. I think the biggest thing, I think your offseason needs to be this. Upgrade the trenches. This is World War I now. This is trench warfare. I like Biotis. He's a fine center. Go get a new center. I believe Lloyd Cushenberry, could be a free agent. I also I haven't watched him yet, but I've heard amazing things about Jackson. I think it's Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, the center. I've heard some incredible things. Apparently, this is a deep center draft. Again, when I get more into the draft, I can give you guys more names on who I want. The big one is T'Vondre Sweat from Texas. The problem is that we have a guy that should be that monster run stopper.
I don't want to draft Sweat.
His name is Mozzie Smith. Do you know why Mozzie's not been effective? I do not blame Mozzie at all, one bit. I blame the
because when
Cowboys.
he was drafted, they wanted him to lose weight.
They made him lose 30 pounds.
Yeah.
You took away his best strength. You took away now again Michigan D linemen, and if you watch how they run their defensive scheme, their D linemen none of them are fast. They're not supposed to be built on speed unless you have like a David Ojabo from a couple years ago, where it's like an outside linebacker playing edge. They're not built on speed. Their D line is supposed to be slow and hold the line of scrimmage, so the linebackers can move freely. I drafted a linebacker, and Jordan Lewis was from Michigan, so clearly the Michigan players can work. It's just a matter of they fit into a very specific defensive scheme, and it does not fit our scheme. I like Mozzie. I think you need to give him more time. I think us as Cowboy fans were too quick to scrutinize him for being a first-round pick. We will see. I think you upgrade. You upgrade defensive line, upgrade linebacker. Please upgrade linebacker. Linebacker is bigger, I think, than defensive tackle. I think Mozzie, bringing back Hankins, who said he wants to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you can get more linebackers, I like Bell, I like Clark, but
Overshown.
And yeah, I love Overshown, but you need that Sean Lee again. You need that Luke Kuechly. You need that. You need the field general. You need the guy, and we have a lot of off-ball guys. Overshown's an off-ball linebacker. Clark is an off-ball linebacker. Bell is a safety converted linebacker who can play linebacker, but he's off-ball. He's not going to be a guy that's anyway. Divisional round, was a lot more entertaining. I'm super happy for the Lions. Super happy for, the Ravens. But I'm picking Ravens Lions Super Bowl. That's what I'm picking. I think the Lions are going to. I think it's their team. I think it's their year of destiny for the Lions, and I think that the Ravens are going to beat the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs don't have the talent to go toe to toe. I think the Lions Niners game is going to be a lot better game. But
I think I'm going to go Ravens Lions as well. But wouldn't it be awesome is if the season ended with how it started, Chiefs Lions?
It'd be fun.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, it'd be a cool storyline. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for listening. We will talk to you guys again next week about more cool stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be Super Bowl stuff.
Hopefully, Mavs made a trade by then.
Hopefully. So, talk to you guys later.
Peace.